on your page. Any second now. It says we're live. Hot darn, we are. Edit privacy to make it public. I tagged you, so it should be on your page.
Okay, sounds good.
All righty.
I don't even know how that works, so we'll see.
No problem. I'm sure I'll go look and make sure it's on your page. It's not showing up there yet.
Okay.
So.
I just refreshed that page, but I don't see it on there.
All righty. That's weird. So let me go type your name on the post so that it tags. Hi, everybody. Have a seat. We'll be right there. Usually there's no.
Seats.
What's that?
I said have 2 seats.
Take 2. They're small. We'll be here all week. Try the veal. Okay. Second now.
Okay. Have 2 seats.
Take 2. They're small. We'll be here all week. Try the veal.
It's repeating itself. I have it in the background, but I just heard.
So what you'll want, somehow you have Facebook up. So you want to take Facebook off.
It's repeating itself. I have it in the background, but I just heard.
So what you'll want, somehow you have up. So you want to take Facebook off.
Okay. All right. Talk to me now.
Hi.
Okay, there we go.
Perfect. That is perfect. Oh my gosh, you have no idea all the stuff that's happened on the internet today. This is wonderful. Really? Yes. Okay. I was just on Jenny McNulty's show and T-Mobile dropped me off the face of the earth.
That must have hurt.
It did. I was crying. Can you tell?
Yeah, I could see those, unless the tears had dried up, but it looks like they're.
Yes, I'm a boomer. I can fake it through this, I guess. Okay, so today, you guys, welcome to Comic Spot. Now, Eddie Brill is the reason I have a tagline to Comic Spot. I had a contest.
Oh, right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yes, he's a prolific writer. He went to Emerson College. We'll get into that in a sec. I had a contest and I was looking for a way to say something clunky that I came up with, and he nailed it. He won the contest. So Comic Spot is where this veteran vets out veterans of comedy. Isn't that amazing? He did that for me. Thank you, Eddie.
You're welcome. I don't even remember that, but you know, I liked it. I like hearing it at least.
Yes. So let me read the intro. You can get this too off of eddiebrill.com, his website. For 17 years, he served as the audience warm-up comic for The Late Show with David Letterman, you guys. David Letterman. For 11 of those years, he was the stand-up comedy talent coordinator.
That's a
mouthful.
Know
what I'm talking about. What's that?
So that's a mouthful.
Isn't it? Oh my gosh. Eddie has taped more than 100 TV shows in 6 different countries, including 10 appearances on The Late Show and on an Emmy-nominated episode of FX hit series Louie. A 3-time MAC award winner for outstanding male comic in New York City. Do you know how hard that is to get?
It's you know, in the cabaret community of New York, the Manhattan Association of Cabarets and Clubs, it's called the MAC. And you know, it's like your peers, and they're, you know, it's mostly, you know, like incredible singers, and there's a few comics, and I, you know, have different people to thank for that. I got to work in the cabaret community, so it was very nice. It doesn't mean you're the best comic in New York. It's, you know, for outstanding comic, which was very nice. And wow. I was out, you know, it was good. And, you know, I was in good company. It was really nice to be part of. And I love the cabaret community very, very much. And New York City has such a great history, so I'm proud of those. You know,
Yes.
but I just don't want to have people think it's something where he's the best comic in New York, and that's not ever. That has never been the case.
Oh,
You know.
see, and he's humble. I love humble people. He has hosted and performed for hundreds of corporate events. I'd love to hear
Right.
about that,
That's okay. All
including,
right, and that's all we really need for the intro because it's a long. That's my website. You know, it's the long bio, but you get the idea, and I appreciate it. And we did one of these before, and this now we're doing it again because I don't know what had happened, but I really like this sort of out of the world backdrop, and
thank you.
very nice. It's you've worked hard at this, I see.
Thank you so much. I've been trying to get more, a little bit better every day. I don't want to be sitting around just expecting people to like it. I try to make it better.
Yeah,
So
that's the
thank
way
you.
we should do things in this world. If you do it every day and work hard and love it, it gets better without you having to try too hard.
Yes. I want to hear all over again, mostly because I don't have good memory. I want to know all about your early life up to this moment and then what your plans are for the rest of your life. I want to
Well,
hear it.
that's everything. We don't have that much time, but
I
I grew up. I grew up in an we were very poor people, but we had a lot of love, and it was a good house. It was a lot of laughing, and that's the key. And my mom was hilarious, the funniest person in our family, and my dad was pretty funny, but my mom really was the best. And there's always comedy albums, and my parents would go to comedy shows, and we always watched comedy TV and the Jackie Gleason show, and they'd let me watch the comics on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and so there was always comedy in the house. I never thought I'd do it for a job, but I always had fun, and I was a chubby little boy, and what do chubby boys do? They use their humor to meet women, as opposed to the long hair, guys have look like lionesses or big swarthy lions, it was really nice to find people who enjoyed the sort of intelligence of a person, as opposed to who they are on the inside, as opposed to who you are on the outside.
Yes.
But there's always the ego, and you want people to like who you look like on the outside as well. But
Yeah.
so there was always comedy around. So I never thought I'd do it for a job. I didn't think it was a job. I didn't, I was a good student in school, math and science, Brooklyn, New York. It was really fun. And then we moved to Florida. There was a divorce. There was a marriage out of religion. It was, different religions. People were more angry about that than they were happy about the love that between my mother and my stepfather, which was powerful and beautiful. So we left. We went to Florida, where my aunt lived in Hollywood, Florida. She invited us down there, and it was very different than Brooklyn. It was good and bad. It was good and mostly good because I had an incredible group of friends down there, and the beach, which I always loved, even in Brooklyn. And when I went to high school, the school was very, very good. I went to an incredible high school, and but the racism and the small mindedness that still pervades Florida was pretty strong when I was down there. And neighborhoods where you were separated by color, and you were treated poorly. And we were broke, so we didn't have money, so we lived in the poorest of the white neighborhood, which was on the cusp of the black neighborhood, because it was almost like that's how it went. Weirdly enough, how you were, they didn't put like rich people in the middle, or whatever. But if you
Yes.
lived on North Lake or South Lake in Hollywood, Florida, you had a lot of money. And you lived close to I-95 and Pembroke Road, you were the broke family. But the great news is that I had more diverse friendships and more a different childhood, and it was really good. And again, I was a little chubby boy, and being funny always really worked in my favor, and I loved that. I was always musical. Our family's always musical. I played in the band. I sang with bands. I really loved the attention I got from doing all that kind of stuff. And
What instrument did you play, and what were
in
you
the high school band, I played clarinet, and it was really incredible to be in a symphony band. And I wish I would have, you know, I started doing that in the fifth grade in New York. That's a whole other story. But I kind of wish I played sax instead of clarinet, even though they're very similar. I wish I would have had started out that way because I would have probably been able to do more rock and roll stuff later. Uh, when the timing would have been really good if I had learned sax. There's not many rock and roll clarinetists, you know. There's more, you know, Benny Goodman kind of stuff.
Yes. I
But you
love
know,
the saxophone is sexy.
yeah, saxophone is sexy. You know, it really is. And I had a lot of friends who in bands, and I'd sing with them and or hang out with them or whatever. But
Are you a
um,
bass?
um, I never had a thing, you know, and they would like, you know, mom sang bass, dad sang tenor, you know, whatever. I just sang and I wasn't very good at it. I just loved it. And my friends were really good at it. And I got better at it because we would record music together and you just can't help but getting better at it because we would do it every day. It was really great. The real change in my life, there was a lot of changes. The big change was my stepfather dying. He was 37 and got cancer, got when he was like around 36, 37, he got cancer. And there were five of us, and we'd only known him 4 years at that point, and he was an incredible man. And
Sorry for your
so all of us,
loss.
what's that?
Sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I always think of whenever anyone says that, and it's a sincere wish, I always think of NYPD Blue, the TV show,
Mhm.
because they would say that every time there was a loss, and it almost seemed like they had to say it. It was a sentence, you know, like when we're on Facebook and you're writing to people all the time, and you hear a lot of loss and a lot of sad stories, and you say, you know, sorry for your loss. That's what you could say. There's not a lot you can say. You just be succinct and say it. But anyway,
Yes.
so it was pretty intense, and all of a sudden I'm you know, a kid and I'm an adult and I'm the oldest of five and I'm
Wow.
raising the kids and going to school and working three jobs but I liked it. I liked it. I liked being a caretaker. I enjoyed the hell
Yeah.
out of it. And there was really, you know, there was a pleasure in it. Um, it made me who I am. You know, always caring for the kids and you know and we've had a lot of tragedy, a lot of loss. So a lot of sorry for your losses in my life. There were five of us. There's only three of us left. My sister died when she was 34. My brother died, one of them, when he was 35. And now there's three boys. But whoever's around, we always laugh and we have a good time and we make the best of it because we've been through all this craziness.
Yes.
So that was pretty intense. It changed my life dramatically and gave me responsibility, real responsibility when I was very young. And in a sense, it helps you because you have to do that. You have to survive. You know, COVID, at the beginning, I was so bummed out and freaking out and not taking care of myself and, you know, angry and sad and all those emotions. But you have to get up off your ass and go, okay, well, what am I going to do about it? Sit around and mope? And you can, but didn't. And
Yes.
so, you know, I went to college in Boston at this very tiny school at Emerson. It was my uncle who taught at UMass Amherst told me about the school and said that it would be a good school for me to go to because I was interested in news and broadcasting and and so I went to school originally for broadcasting, but immediately I met these incredible people and we formed a comedy group and the rest is, you know, it's been uphill in comedy ever since. I remember getting the first laugh. I'll never forget it. I played a cowboy in the very first scene in our very first skit, and I got the very first laugh, and it was powerful. It was like a drug, and I've been chasing that drug my whole life. And
Abs-
I'm pretty proud that I could say that I did that. So there's a sort of, you know, that's where I'm at in this world. I've had ups and downs, but mostly ups, a lot of ups. And I've had a very a very dream-like life where I've had a lot of dreams come true that I didn't even dream about.
Wow. So talk to me about the people you went to college with in the comedy troupe. Are some of them still your friends
They're
today?
all of them pretty much. The ones that are still alive are still my friends, and the ones that have passed, they're deep in my heart. Yeah, we all care for each other. There's a couple of very close people who have passed from the comedy group that I think of fondly, who had incredible, influence on all of us. And but there's a few of us who are still dancing, still singing, still playing, still getting up every morning and trying to do have fun and make the best of it. And so yeah, no, we're all really close. My best friend Chris is I met that very first meeting that we had as a comedy group, and we're still
Wow.
the best.
There's a lot of really good talent that came out of the colleges that you mentioned who are famous comedians today.
Yeah, before we were there, Jay Leno went there, and Norman Lear, Bill Dana, the great Bill Dana, Andrea Martin, who is one of my heroes, and got to know her because of the Emerson connection. And then after, while we were there was Mario Cantone and Dennis Leary and Lauren Dombrowski and just on and on. So many names. Stephen Wright was there when we were in college, and then after we were gone, then it was Bill Burr and David Cross and Jen Kirkman and Laura Keitlinger, and I mean it just goes on and on and on. There's a million names, and now you can actually. And we started this comedy department, and people I had met Norman Lear, and we started a comedy department at the college, and he was nice enough to help us. So at the time, uh, we Saturday Night Live had just started, 1975. We started 76. In 1975, the head writer was an Emerson person, Marilyn Suzanne Miller. There was a lot of people who had graduated Emerson who were very talented and successful, and we wanted to learn from them. Harvey Miller, who wrote all the Odd Couples, Jerry Paris, who was the neighbor on Dick Van Dyke Show and directed episodes, and great actor, and on and on and on, and all the other people I mentioned. So Norman Lear was kind enough to, we had a conversation, and he was inspired and gave us some of the school money, and the school matched it, and we formed a comedy writing department at the school.
How
And
cool
it was
is
wildly successful. And now, all these years later, you can graduate from Emerson with a degree in comedy writing. And
what?
yeah, all these, it's really wonderful that that's happened. So it's good.
What a great legacy that you've been a part of creating.
Uh-huh.
Well, what I'd like to do right now, real quick, is take a commercial break on you, not on something else. I want to stop and pause here because I think that people need to put their egos and their narcissism in check in the comedy world. And we need to pay homage to people who have, not to make you sound old, because I'm older than you, we need to pay homage to people who have gone before us and all that you have done and all that you have sacrificed for what you've done. I see far too much disrespect happening by young comics. I'm not saying millennials, Gen X's, baby boomers. I see people walking into clubs who have arrived in comedy with a hat on, and the young comics don't even know who they are. And when they meet them, it's an embarrassment. Do look into the legends like Eddie Brill. And when he walks into a comedy club, buy him a freaking drink. Get him,
Yeah,
talk
but
to him,
I
talk
don't.
to him.
Stop your commercial there. I don't think that's important. I think each person is their own person, and how someone gets success or how someone looks back at which comics came before them. Most of the reason why I'm successful, it's a combination of very hard work, loving what I do, and the connections and people who have mentors along the way. It's going to happen in every generation. And in every generation, there's going to be people with their nose up and not caring about the past. And that's okay. I don't think people should change who they are. I think they should, you know, you don't have to have a mentor to be a great comedian. You don't have to kiss someone's ass or buy them a drink or anything like that.
Oh, I
Just,
didn't mean that. I just meant let's have some respect.
yeah, well, respect should be there in every category. I mean, in everything we do, respect and integrity should be there. And if you don't have that, you don't have that. And if you, but I don't think we should have to tell people to be respectful or ask people to, go up and buy me a drink. And I mean, I know
I
you
I
mean
didn't
well.
I
I
didn't
know, I
mean
know you mean well. I'm just
I
saying.
didn't I was being flip. What I mean
I
is
know. And
if
and
if,
speaking of
if
Flip Wilson, one of the greatest comedians of all time, one of the guys I wish I had met. I worked the Apollo, and at the Apollo, there's a room in the back, the Flip Wilson room. I guess maybe he slept there or something, but anyway, that when I heard Flip, that's what I
yes.
one of my first thought. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, you're a very lovely person, and you're very, very dedicated, and it's really inspiring to see the kind of work you
Thank you.
put into it, and it's really, it's noticeable when you do
Thank
the
you.
work, but it doesn't matter because you're going to do it anyway. If I,
Yes.
if I didn't know you, or if I didn't, you know, be interviewed by you, or we never met, you're still going to do it. And if someone was a douche rocket to you or a bad person or whatever, it's not going to get in your way because it's important for you to stay, to own your truth and to be who you are. That's what I was trying to say. I know you mean well,
Yeah.
very, very much so.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's, it matters who you are. If you're a person who goes around with respect and integrity, someone who's willing to show their vulnerability, I think you're well ahead of the curve in this world.
I've seen people get introduced to each other, and the person with so much history and comedy isn't even acknowledged. I
It's
mean,
okay. That's all right. It's not. That's not important even a little bit. What's important is that the person who has all that knowledge uses that for their benefit to go on stage, and for the people that do see that or who do get that to be able to impart that wisdom on other people because they really want to do it. And if they don't, okay, next.
okay. You brought me over to the bright side. Thank
I,
you.
well, you got you know, the background of the planet.
Talk to me about how you went from college to the David Letterman show. I
I
got to hear this.
just walked. I was stopped over. It's really mostly people will tell you it's who you know, and especially in this business. And I was working at the Dana Carvey show as the warm-up comedian there, and it was very funny show, and it was very fun to be the warm-up comedian. But the show didn't last long; it was over very quickly because it was too smart for American audiences, and people didn't take a chance on that, and it was over. So now I'm not warming up any show, and Louis C.K. now is working at the Letterman show as a writer, and they were looking for a warm-up comedian, and he recommended me, and I had a 6-week trial period, and it lasted 17 years. So that's what you do. But you can get recommended, but you got to be able to put the work in and do the job once you get the recommendation. So that's why you put all the work in. That's what all the you end up. You start out, like I warmed up a whole bunch of shows, and there's all different kinds of warm up things you do. And the Letterman show was pretty special because you're on the Ed Sullivan Theater stage, and the history there is incredibly incredible, and it's a beautiful
Yes.
theater, and you're working with the best of the best in show business. I mean, it was the very best. Um, the camera person, the head camera person, was Walter Cronkite's camera person. The writers were all from Harvard University. The executive producers had been with Dave since the beginning, and they were just incredible at what they did. The band was amazing. The lighting was terrific. The host was one of the greatest hosts in the history of television. And he made us take our game to the next level because we're all working with these incredibly talented people. And it's fun. It's really fun to be able to play on that high energy. And we got to play on that high energy every day. And I got to do it for more 1/3 of my life.
Wow. What are
Yeah.
some memories on the David Letterman show you'll never forget?
Meeting Sophia Loren, who was,
Yes.
who I worshipped, and when I met her, she couldn't have been nicer. Sitting on the piano bench with Burt Bacharach, that was pretty amazing. Becoming very close and with Don Rickles was big for me. There was a million. There were hundreds of incredible experiences for me.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great to be around the talent that was around there. But those are the big ones. Those are the main big ones. It was great for me to perform on that stage. It's
Yes.
one of the best. And I've gone around the world and done comedy in many places. And the Ed Sullivan Theater was 492 seats, but so intimate and so beautiful to work. So fun. And I was on that stage every night for so many years, nearly 20 years. So when I do the show as a guest, it was my home. I was in my living room, and
Yes.
not and very few people in the world can say that.
Yes.
A handful.
The first time that you went onto the stage at David Letterman to do comedy as the warm up or to do a spot on the show, how nervous or how did that go? What did you learn?
Well, the first time I did stand up on the show, I was excited, and the energy was, the adrenaline was riveting because there's first of all, I know these people now. They're my friends. I'm working with them. The band, everyone's right there next to you. Dave's behind you. You want to impress Dave. You want all the people on the show who they're rooting for you, and so I was really psyched. But I sort of learned. I got a lot of advice from a lot of different people. Joan Rivers helped me a lot with my very first set. I was flying from Milwaukee to New York City like the week before my first spot, and she was at the airport in Milwaukee. She was doing a show at a theater. I was doing the Comedy Cafe, which was a great comedy club in Milwaukee. And we both finished our weekend doing our comedy shows, and we were at the airport, and I got to talk to her. And I had met her before. With Judy Gold and I were doing a show at Stand Up New York, and she hung out afterwards, and we talked for hours. And but I talked to her again, and she said she remembered me. I don't know if she did, but we get on the plane, and I told her I was doing Letterman for the first time as a guest, and she came over to me after the flight took off and asked the woman next to me to switch seats with her, and then she said, "All right, let me hear the set." And so I did this sort of set for her sitting down, and she gave me a lot of advice, and I brought her on the stage with me. Now,
What?
yeah, and she was inside there. David Brenner is another person who was very good to me, saw me working out the set, gave me some great advice. There's a lot of stuff about nonverbal communication that was important about, words are only one form of communication, but it's how you use your body and how you pause and how you let, the nonverbal speak. I learned a lot of that from Joan and Dave Brenner. And yeah, and I worked hard at the set, and I had a lot of friends look at the set and help me put it together, and it was and it went really well. Now when I watch it, I look at it and I go, oh my God, you sucked. Just the way I'm always on myself. I felt like I was rushing at times, and I if I could do it again, I would know what to do now. But it felt really good, and I was I was in a great mood, and I was on the stage, and I heard Dave laughing behind me, and I heard the band laughing near me, and it was just the loveliest of lovely. But again, I've been on that stage. Let's see, I started in February 17th of 1997, and I think my first set was in October of that year. So I'd been on the show for a few months, so I had already been on that stage a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So when I walked out onto that stage, it was different. But the cameraman and I were friends. Dave Dorset, the cameraman I mentioned, him and I were very close, and we talked a lot. So I kind of just worked to him. I looked at him, told him the jokes, and looking at him was like looking at the 5 million people at home, watching the show, and it went okay. I was happy with it. It was really fun. I could say that I did the David Letterman show, and It
Yes.
was really great.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Joan Rivers and David Brenner. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Huge
they
fan.
were both incredible to me. Joan. You know, I got to, one year, a few years later, I was at the on stage where the Saturday Night Live stage was, and there was a party there for a bunch of celebrities, and it was a kickoff of some magazine. It was either New York, I think it was New York Magazine. It was either New Yorker or New York, but I think it was New York Magazine. And I'm hosting an event there, and people are coming in, and there's just wall to wall celebrities,
Mhm.
and no walls, but just wall to wall celebrities. And they were all sitting in their seats. And when someone would come late, I'd do a little bit of a, joke about forgetting their watch or those kind of silly things. And then and their audience was loving it, and they were hoping more people would show up and come late because I was having fun with that. I think people got up and walked out and came back so they can hear me do something about them being late. So Joan came late, and everyone was like, "Oh, what is he going to do here with Joan?" And actually, I told them the story that I just told you about how she was there for me when I needed her. And instead of, I said, so I'm not going to make fun of her. And they all stood and gave her a standing ovation. And it was very, very emotional moment. It was really, really nice.
Gonna get me crying. It won't take much with Joan.
Right. So she was really terrific, and she was important to me. And, it's funny that all through life, I had some kind of, like, there was a great article about comedy, and we were both quoted in the same article. And, it was like, I was, Joan and I weren't best friends, but she would always show up in my life in a beautiful way.
Oh, so way back in the day of MySpace, people who were famous, they would write to people like nobodies, like I was, right? Like I'm not anything yet, but I ain't done yet. But back in the day, I wasn't a comedian, and I wrote David Brenner, and I sent him some jokes, and I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "There's no punchlines."
Well, there you go. He was honest, right?
Yes.
He
And
was the
out of
hardest
that,
working
we
guy.
developed a very beautiful friendship just by MySpace messages, and I've
Nice.
kept them to this day.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was an incredible man, and yeah, he was just so good to me. And the friend of mine that was in the comedy group in college for a very short time was working as a limo driver, to make some extra money in the city. And he Renner got in his limo for some show he was working on, and they started talking comedy. And he was asking, my friend was asking David who his favorite young comics were out there, and he mentioned me, Brenner. So he didn't know that my friend knew me. So he didn't know that I was friends with my friend Chris CB. And so it was really nice that to hear that, because I knew that he didn't know him. So it was pretty good. I got one of George Carlin was my hero, and it's amazing that we became very close to him, and that I'm very close to his family, and his girlfriend and I are still really tight friends, and all this stuff. But he had said really nice things about me to other people, and in fact, one friend of mine heard him talk about me, at an event that, and it was just really great to hear. And he said nice things to me up front. But when that's the one of the most satisfying feelings, is when people you respect and love say nice things about you. I recently read something where someone did that, maybe a pitcher in baseball, and he said this other pitcher had said I love the way he works or whatever. It doesn't matter who, you can't please everyone.
No.
You can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. But well, that's a whole other show. But the thing is, you have it's important to just do what you do and not try to please everybody. But when you please the people you look up to, there's nothing, there's no second place there. That's number one.
No. I got into the business because of Wendy Liebman. I sent her some
Nice.
jokes, and I told her I'm never going to go on stage. I had brain trauma in 96, you take the jokes. And she's like, no, thanks. You take
Right.
this crap and you get on stage. And so she's the reason. And I got to interview her, and she invited me to come on her homegrown comedy show when it gets started back up. And to
Great.
like, it doesn't get better than that. I'm sorry. I can, like that was the pinnacle for me. That was my moment.
I'm so happy for you. And it's a great show, and it's a great venue, and you will love it, and you'll have fun. And Wendy's the greatest. We're very close friends,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, I gave her first spot ever in New York City. I ran a comedy club called the Paper Moon, and eventually became the Boston Comedy Club. But I was running the Paper Moon, and Wendy was recommended to me by other comics from Boston. She was living in Boston, and we've been close, and we've done a lot of shows together, traveled a lot together. She's amazing. She's one of my favorite people, and I was just talking about her earlier today with someone. Jake Johansson and myself would travel a bunch together and do shows. And her and Nick DiPaolo did a big show. We did some pretty big shows. Me and Dwayne Kennedy and her did some big shows together. She's really great, and she cares about comedians. And when she was on America's Got Talent, I got hired to be her coach,
Oh, that's
which
so
was
cool.
fun because she did very well. And they paid me very handsomely. I guess they have a lot of money over there at America's Got Talent. I was very happy with the size of the check. I was shocked,
Wow.
but they but it was really fun because her and I know each other so well, and it's important to have people you can trust who are not going to steer you wrong or get in the way. Do what's best for the other person.
How did you grow up to be? I'm assuming you grew up. How did you grow
Yeah.
up to be so humble? What is it about your life that has you can have
It's
this
not,
much?
it's funny that you would say that. I have to keep my ego in check. I've had some of these amazing moments in my life, and sometimes I've let my ego get in the way of better things. So I realized, especially being around Dave, because his ego, big ego, but really very shows his vulnerability, self-doubt, all of that stuff that's pretty obvious. You don't have to know Dave to you just watch him and what he does, watch his interviews, you know watch him work as a host. And I learned a lot from him about just about being humble. But again, it has to do with your family and how you grow up. And as much as all of us took care of each other, and all of us had tragedies that we all laughed and we all took care of each other, and there was a humbleness to it, which is great. But I've made mistakes by being, you learn not to make those mistakes. You learn to, like you had said something about, oh, he had won the Mac Award, and immediately my thing was like, when I had first got the Mac Award, I was telling people to intro me, like, ladies and gentlemen, he's won the Mac Award for best comic in New York, and it sounded so good, and I let that out there. And after a while, I was a little embarrassed by that tricking audiences to think I was I'm the best comic in New York, and that's why I regret that I did that. It was an ego thing, it just to make it sound good. And in reality, it's an incredibly nice award, but it's not the best comic in New York kind of
Uh,
award. So
yes,
you learn it's just how how you let it sit inside of you. And I'd rather just tell my truth. People don't like a lot of people don't like the truth. It's very uncomfortable to hear the truth, and I think that comedy is a lot about exposing those truths.
it is. And the
Yeah,
deeper
it's
that
true.
you, and so your own comedy trajectory, did it start out where you were superficial and you moved more towards deep
I
authenticity?
don't think so. It was more about playing with my friends. So we had a
Nice.
lot of fun, and I wasn't good at all. I was, at the beginning, I got laughs. I was very, I was skimming the surface. I was acting like a comedian. I wasn't being my most genuine self. One of my favorite quotes of all time is the Michelangelo one, where they ask him, how did you make that statue of, how did you make David out of that big chunk of marble? And Michelangelo says, I chipped away at the pieces that weren't him. So I always think about that. So you get rid of all the stuff that's not you, and you bring that to the stage, and that's when you're the best you that you can bring. So along the way, I kept chipping away at the stuff that wasn't me. But you hold on to that at times. There's a comfort in that. There's a, it's easy, you know. But I respect people like Colin Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
He always took chances. Always. We worked together a lot at the beginning when I started this comedy club. He was there, and we would pretty much every week we would be on the show together, or he would host, or I'd run the door, or we worked together. And he took a lot of chances, and he didn't get laughs every show, and he didn't care, because I mean, he cared, I'm sure, a lot, but he did what was necessary. And he's done that his whole life, and I wasn't brave enough at the beginning to do that. But in the last few years, I've really been a lot braver, and I loved it. And then the pandemic hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, this pandemic. How's that been for you? You're out there on the East Coast taking
Yeah. Well,
pictures every day.
What's that?
Taking pictures every day that are gorgeous.
Thank you. It's my new hobby,
Gorgeous.
taking photos, and I love it. And it's just my iPhone, so it's not like I'm, some great photographer with the f-stops and all this other stuff. I'm trying to even think of, like I'm not, but what I am is someone who, enjoys doing it. So I think when you enjoy it, whatever, but I've gotten good feedback, and it feels good. You saying it's good makes me happy.
Yes.
I like that people like the photos. I enjoy it. There's a guy named Paul who used to run a comedy club in the Village back in the day, and just a great guy. It was
Hertzlick?
yes. And he's just was so good. Comedy U Grand was the name of the club he ran. Great guy. I mean, I can't think of the guy's name. He was in The Shield. He was the bartender there, Michael. He was the lead guy. I know him so well, and I can't think of his name. But anyway, Michael Chiklis.
I love him.
Yeah, he was the bartender at Comedy U Grand. I mean, I remember him back in the day, and it was such a great venue. But anyway, Paul wrote to me and said, "Look, I love your photos, and I would like to buy some." It's like, what? He said, if you do some kind of thing or art exhibit, let me know. And it was like, to me, it's like, I've never dreamt in my life that someone would say that about photography or art or that kind of thing. And I'm thinking of maybe in all the different things I'm doing, I'm thinking about, maybe doing something with the pictures as well.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a part of the pandemic. And, so at the beginning I was all, not happy about having to stop doing stand-up, because I was just loving it, and it was getting better and better for me. And then, but I started doing other things like writing and working on stories, and you just become a better writer by writing every day, and I'm doing it every day pretty much. And then I just started a new thing, and I'm going to do that soon again, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I've been starting an Instagram, live thing, and I just started 5 days ago, and I did like 5 minutes I did 5 minutes the first day, like 10 the second, and then the last 2 days or so I've done like 40 minutes on it.
Wow.
And I've gotten good response, and I think 40 minutes is a little long, but but people have been watching it. I'm getting 400 or 500 people, not on at the exact same time, but I think that's because I'm new at it. People don't know when to come there, but they see it later, and then they'll take a look at it. And I've got some good feedback, both positive and negative, but negative in a positive way, where I was told what to do, because like I don't know how to set it up so that I'm on my laptop like I'm with you for the Instagram live. So I use my phone, and I'm reading the things. So I'm here with my phone, and I'm looking down at the bottom to see who's coming on. And then people saying, well, you're looking down and you're not looking at the camera. And I'm like, so I've been trying to do that. Like, look.
So do you have Instagram downloaded onto your laptop yet?
I do. I have it on there. It's not it's not downloaded as much as it's the website for it. Excuse me as I burp.
Maybe you need to download the app onto your
Oh, I'll
laptop.
check that out. That's not a bad idea.
Hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, that would be good. It'd be a lot easier. Plus, I don't have to hold the dang thing, as they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pandemic, but I've turned it into a good thing. There's a couple of major projects I'm working on, and I've been writing on a film, which is really great. Someone hired me to take a script and take a sad song and make it better. No, it's actually a very good script. When I read it, I was like, oh my God, I love this. Can I work on it? And they were nice enough after I sort of auditioned to be that writer. And I wrote it. And we just handed the first draft in to the producers. So that's really fun. I'm working on all these other projects, some major, some minor, but all really fun. One of them is a big docuseries. I don't want to say anything until it goes anywhere. Another one, I'm working with these terrific women who been doing a podcast, and now they want to add comedy to it, but in a sit down format where we raise money for women's shelters. Each town we do because we created that in Woodstock, New York, when we were running the Woodstock Comedy Festival. We had given money to Polaris for human trafficking, and the Woodstock Women's Shelter. So we decided, well, we want to do it for one in Connecticut, where these terrific women hosts are from, and then let's do one in LA, and then let's do one in London, and let's go around the world and find these different places and help help these women who need the help.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, please.
Yeah, but that's not the only things. I'm writing every day. I would like to publish a book. I want to, this new Instagram live. It might be a fun thing for me to do because, as you can see, I don't have problem chatting. So yeah, I've gotten really good feedback on that. So I'm good feedback, and I keep going forward. See what happens.
And I love reading your Facebook posts. They're super long and well written. I mean, if anybody's out there and wants to see good examples of well-educated writing, that's where you could find some.
Well, that's very nice of you to say.
It's true. So
so is anyone do people ask questions? I wouldn't mind, because we've done this for like 45 minutes, and I probably about 15 minutes left for me.
Okay.
Do people write in and ask questions? Because I'd be more than happy to answer any if they.
Let me go see. There's a lot of messages I have, so let me see.
Get rid of them.
A lot of my people come after the fact. Let's see here.
Yeah, there's a weird truth to that.
So let's see.
A lot of people come after the fact. It sounds naughty and not positive.
Eric Knowles from the Veterans of Comedy says hello.
Hello, Eric. I work with Eric in San Luis Obispo.
Oh, they just inducted me into the Veterans of Comedy.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. I look forward to that. Howard Aronin.
Oh, yeah.
He says, fantastic. Something you said was fantastic, evidently.
Yeah.
Probably everything. And Johnny Gold has clap, 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 and this.
For the Wolfman. Clap, clap, clap for the Wolfman.
Ah. So those are the messages we got so far. Anybody else want to say anything?
If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, ask questions. I'll tell them that in writing too. So they'll get this message. But while we're waiting to see if there's any questions, I need to know this. I mean, I'm about promoting you. Screw me, not literally, but I want to promote you. Where can people help you? You want more followers, or do you want people to? Where do you want people?
I just want to keep being creative, and I would like, of course, I'd like feedback and to help inspire, influence. I'd love to do shows, corporate shows, regular shows, even shows on rocks, fat kids, skinny kids. Even one thing about me, my whole life, I always break into song.
That's
But
so
anyway,
great.
no, I just want to keep doing creative things. I got a call today from a guy I worked with a lot in the past who wants to create these sort of workshopy things, and you know, like sort of a board where you have like 5 or 6 people from the industry to help young comics to answer their questions. And I don't really, I just want to keep doing this. I want to do it all the time. I'm looking forward to getting back on stage. I'm looking forward back to traveling. I miss my niece who's in Florida, my niece in New York, and my nephew in New York. I get to see them, or at least talk to them. But we're a very, very close family, and it's a crime to not be able to see them. My son, who I love with all my heart, is in LA. He's a comic like myself, and he's very talented. I'm very proud of him. I couldn't be more proud of him and his wife Christina, who I
He's
love with all my heart.
accomplished. Your son is accomplished in comedy.
Yeah, he's doing very well for himself. Yeah,
Yeah. He's at the
and
comedy
his
store,
name is,
right?
yeah, and his wife Christina is an incredibly talented person, and it's a great actress, and also a great designer, and just like my sister-in-law. And we're very close. We're a family of love. We have a lot of love, but I miss them. I miss squeezing him and holding him. I had lunch today with my brother-in-law. We had a nice big squeeze. And then my brother, I'm going to see him tomorrow again. My brother Keith, he's so great, and just big hugs, strong. It's so important to have human touch, human compassion, a compassionate touch.
Yes.
I met some incredible people in the world, not that are not all comedy. And this guy named John Upledger, Dr. John Upledger. And John Upledger created the craniosacral therapy, which is, saved my mother's life, actually. And I was lucky to meet him, and he and I did a lot of cool things for good people. And one of the things we tried to create, but unfortunately he passed, was a compassionate touch program where people would use the touch to heal, as opposed to anything, any negative thing. It's not about using it as opposed to. It's about the compassionate touch program, and it was always about that. It's always about, that's one of the things we're missing with the pandemic is shaking hands, hugging, squeezing, going to the movies, all the things that are important.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and we're becoming addicted to the internet, and we don't have
Yeah,
human
I'm
communication.
so addicted, it's ridiculous. A funny thing is, like, I'll wake up and I'll have my phone in my hand. And I said, I said when I was a kid, I used to wake up with my dick in my hand. Now I'm so old, I wake up with my phone in my hand. It's ridiculous.
Gives handheld a whole new meaning.
Yeah, it sure does. But what are you gonna do?
I don't mind that I turn it on vibrate. I just don't want to find it in a remote place.
Exactly. That'll work if it works for you. That's how you light the background of your background.
Yes. So we can wrap up. Nobody seems to be asking any questions. They will later today, and I'll forward any questions and type them back on here.
Well, yeah, or tell them to come to my Instagram live and 7 p.m. Eastern. It's about an hour and 8 minutes from now, and ask questions or give feedback or whatever.
It's
it'll
Eddie
be nice.
Brill.
I'll be happy.
It's Eddie Brill Comic, right?
No, it's EddieComic at Instagram. EddieComic, EddieComic. And I've gotten my website, and I have a new website design. This guy Laz Viciedo, who's an incredible guy and performer as well, but he's a brilliant marketing guy, and he has been working with me, and we just reconnected my website, because I had a friend who created the website, and then she stopped doing the work for it because she told me, she said, look, I have some other stuff to do, and I'm not in that business anymore. And so my website was sat for a while, kind of idle. So now, so if you want to find me, I'm there.
Absolutely.
Contact me through there.
Do you want to give up a Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, or do you want not to?
Nah, it's not important. I'm not looking, I could use all the money in the world, but I'm not asking for it or begging for it.
Got it. So has the pandemic, just in closing, has the pandemic, two things. Number one, has the pandemic hit your family?
Friends.
Okay.
I friends have some really close friends have died, and it's brutal, just brutal. And yeah, my family has dwindled already, and so far we're okay. We're constantly being checked and constantly. My brother Keith is working in the motion picture industry. He's been done it for years, and he's worked on 3 films in the last 2 months, and they test 3 times a week, and they test often. And my brother-in-law also used to work on Law and Order for pretty much the whole series except the very first year, and he ended up directing 3 episodes. But he was the director of photography, the DP of that show, and he's working on a brand new new TV thing, and he got tested today. It's just luckily they're being vigilant and looking out for themselves. And for the people who've lost lives, my heart goes out to anyone who loses a family or a friend. And but hopefully, I think it's going down now. The numbers are going down.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is it that is your mantra that picks you up when things are down?
That's interesting. I don't think I have a mantra because I do some meditation,
Mhm.
but I think things like phrases like action, get an action plan. I think if you want do the work, have an action plan, and just have fun. I think that's real. The key is really, how can I have fun today? I wake up. I'm so thankful every day I wake up, and
Yes.
I have like a little board a cork board in my room, and says just be grateful for each day, because I've lost a lot of friends over the last few years, a lot of friends. And but someone said a good thing. They says, well, you know what, instead of thinking how negative that is, think a lot of people. Since a lot of people, you're going to lose a lot of friends because people die all the time. So there.
Yes. Well, um, my last question is very self-serving.
Okay, like ice cream.
Yeah. Um, I'm a
Sweet.
veteran of the military, so no big deal. All I did was
Good.
count money. That's it.
Okay, well that's good.
But so, and you mentioned that you know Eric Knowles, who was on here. So my question to you is, have you done or had a part in military comedy like Armed Forces Entertainment Abroad, blah, blah, blah?
I've never gone overseas for it, because I was working at Letterman. Drew Carey had asked me to join his uh, group where they were traveling, and unfortunately, I couldn't get away because of Letterman. Letterman would go occasionally overseas, and I almost went with him one time, but when we had to cancel the trip, unfortunately, because it was dangerous. It was really very dangerous, so it's unfortunate. But I've done a lot. I've raised a lot of money for the military throughout the United States, and also just gone to perform at bases all over the United States. And I mean, yeah, it's all part of it. It's all just trying to make people laugh and let people know the people who are sacrificing. Let them know how much you appreciate them.
Yes,
They
yes.
deserve that. They deserve that. You know, thumbs up, wink, the nod, the love, the compassion, the passion.
What is a comment that now I will ask you questions all day long. This will be my last question. Okay.
Yeah, your
I'm,
last question.
I'm like
Okay.
Wendy Liebman with her age.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So the
right.
last question is, um, what was it? Has a military person come up to you and said something you'll never forget after you did comedy?
I don't remember. The one thing that I never will never forget that means so much to me. It's not about military. It's I worked a crowd in Boise. They make you say Boise. I would say Boise, but they said they get mad. And I said, well, you don't say New Jersey, but they make you say Boise. And I was working there because there was a young boy who wanted to be a stand-up comedian, and the young boy, uh, they didn't like his mother. the community, and because she wasn't Mormon like they were, and they didn't want the boy to do stand-up in the comedy club because there's drinking and all this stuff. Well, he never went in the comedy club. He would wait in the lobby with his mom, and when they had announced him, he'd go on stage, and it was his dream come true, and he was doing it, and he was talented, and he went on stage and did it, and then went off stage. But people didn't like his mother and wanted to take it out on him and took away his dream for their own ego or their own, poison. So when I heard that, I put on a show in Boise, and we went to the college, Boise State, and a bunch of comics, and because you think about it, well, if a kid sings the national anthem at a baseball game, there's beer being sold. It doesn't mean he's going to drink beer just because it's sold at a baseball game. It's just bad people doing bad things to good people. So we put on a show, and a big chunk of the crowd's Mormon, and it's fine with me. I have no hatred for someone who believes in what they believe in and is a good-hearted person.
Mhm.
And this 3 women came up to me after the show, and they said, "Look, we don't agree with anything that you said, but we respect the way you said it."
Oh,
And that to
wow.
me was the most,
Hmm.
I had the most chills, and I loved that compliment because, look, I wasn't, I wasn't one of them, and according to them, yet I was. They, so that I remember the most.
That's a beautiful thing to meditate on. You
Yes,
know, that is a beautiful compliment.
I will. So just in closing, I'm
Yes.
going to start doing the 7 o'clock thing each night. Tonight, 7 o'clock, Instagram Live. EddieBrill.com is the website. Eddie
Yes.
underscore Brill is me on Twitter. Instagram is EddieComic. And I'm on Facebook, but I have you could follow me there. But, I think you can find people all over.
Yes. Yes. Let's
Yeah.
get out and support. Have you written books, and do you have merchandise?
I don't have merchandise. I was very stubborn like that for years, but I'm working on getting a book together, and then hopefully I'll be able to sell that. Maybe perform one person storytelling shows doing that. So we'll see.
That would be awesome. Oh, you'll be so great at that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you very much. And
I
I wanted
appreciate
to
you.
squeeze this in because I've just been a little bit busy, thank God, around. And I promised you I would do. We did one before,
Yes.
but now you're all fancy schmancy,
Yes.
and I'm very happy that we got to talk together.
I used to have bum equipment. It was worse than the clothing company.
It's okay.
See you later.
It was the
Thank you
idea
so.
behind it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Eddie Brill. Woo!
You're welcome so much. You
Bye.
take care, Linda. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.